Hello everybody, hope everyone can hear. We're going to get started here in just a sec here. Let me go ahead and make my PowerPoint full screen so you can see everything. Hope everyone can hear, but I was saying a little bit about 5 minutes ago, if you can't, just go ahead and check your volume or make sure your speakers are turned on. If not, we're going to go ahead and post this webinar on our CC Info website later today, so you can watch it as many times as you like and get any sound problems addressed that you may or may not be having. All right, so today, in addition to myself, I'm Chris Minter. Some of you probably already know me from class. I'm an instructional designer and trainer for Connect Carolina, and I'm working on InfoPort as well. We also have in the room Nicole Shevick. She's our Connect Carolina Business Systems Analyst, and she's kind of our expert on everything's budgets. And if there is a question asked today that is a little too tough for me, she's going to chime in and help. If you haven't done a webinar before, we kind of have this sort of standard format. I'm going to go ahead and do my entire presentation here in the PowerPoint, so you can kind of just sit back and have a look at everything. If you do have questions that you want to ask either Nicole or myself, there is a chat window feature in the tool, and you can type your questions at any time during the webinar as you think of them. But we are going to wait until after the webinar is over to answer those questions. So we should have plenty of time to answer any questions you may have. So be thinking of those questions as I go throughout the presentation. As I was mentioning before, this webinar will be posted on our website, ccinfo.unc.edu. That's where you can find information about any of our webinars or slideshows or anything that we do on this online tool. So we're going to talk about the brand new spanking state monthly management reports. We're excited to bring these to you. I think you're going to like them. And these reports are basically there to help you with your reconciliation each month. So to give a little background on sort of why we were kind of going this direction with these reports, the big challenge with your reconciliation today, you might have experienced this, is you go into InfoPort to do your reconciliation, you're looking at the ledger roll-ups, you're looking at the transactions tabs in InfoPort, and the problem can be that your transactions can change even after a month's been closed. So things get approved, things get posted, things get deleted, things will change. So I look at it one day and, something is as an encumbrance, and I look the next day and it's not there. So as these encumbrances and pre-encumbrances change, it can be a little challenging to always be basing your info off reports that are changing daily. So that's kind of what brought all this about. So let's talk about how the new reports are actually going to help you. The big thing about them is they're not affected by any financial activity after the close of the month. So what happens is, snapshots are going to be taken of the state budget ledgers and the state transactions by accounting services. So when they close the month, they're going to take these snapshots and the information is going to be locked. So when you go to actually do the reports, you're not doing them the typical way you do right now. You're not going to go in there and choose a bunch of filters and have to know, did I, choose this correct source, or did I choose this correct whatever. I'm going to go in there and I'm just going to, just look for the reports. So what you're going to essentially do is, enter in your department, enter in the fiscal year, enter the accounting period, information that should be knowledgeable to you, and then just find the report that you want. The nice thing is once you find the report, you're just going to have to download it. And it's going to be available as both a PDF file and an Excel file in a comma-separated value format. And of course, the advantage of the Excel spreadsheet is once you download it, you can manipulate things on there and make it look all the way you might want it to look. So we have 5 state reports that we've made so far. We've got more on the way in the future for your F&A and trust funds as well. So we've got the 5 reports listed here. I'm going to go into detail about what these report names mean, but you can see on here we've got a state summary, a state rolled up summary, we've got state details, state rolled up details, and finally a state parent summary, which would be interesting to say the your MOU leads out there who are managing sort of at the top of a school or a division. So let's talk about first the 3 state summary reports. So the state expense summary reports are similar to the main ledgers tabs in InfoPort. And this state summary is going to be based on your department expense and revenue ledgers. The chart field strings are going to be broken out by program, and this is going to be most useful to your departments. The state rolled up summary is almost the same thing as the state summary that I just talked about, except the chart field strings are not going to be broken out by program. So a good way of explaining this is the fact that, if you've got 2 chart field strings that are identical and they have different programs on the end of them, they're actually going to roll those all up into one and not going to separate those rows out on your report. So you would expect that report to be slightly shorter because it's not breaking out each chart field string just because it has a different program on it. The third one, I mentioned this before, this is the state parent summary. This is going to be based on the parent expense and revenue ledgers. The chart field strings are broken out program, and those are most useful for your MOU leads. So addressing the 2 state details reports, these are going to be similar to your transactions tab in InfoPort, where you're actually looking at the transactions that you've processed for the month. We've got one that's called the state details. It's going to be based on your expense and revenue ledgers, and the chart field strings will be broken out by program. And then I think you get the idea here. State rolled up details is similar to the state details, except the chart field strings are not broken out by program. So very similar reports, it's just how they break out is the main difference. Yes, Nicole.
I just want to mention this is replicating the functionality on the Ledger Rollup tab where you have the Show Program button. You can sort of toggle on and off. So like if you're in the college and you want to see everything by program, you would use the state details report so that everything's broken out by program. But if you're in another school where you roll it up and you don't necessarily need to see everything broken out by program, then you would use the state rolled up details, and that would not include program in the budgetary chart field string. So just 2 reports that mimic the functionality that you have in InfoPort of seeing your transactions by program or without program.
Okay, great. Thanks, Nicole. All right, so I could talk about the reports all day, but it usually helps to actually see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to show you just how easy it is to do these reports. So if you've used InfoPort at all, I think you're going to find this to be fairly straightforward and pretty simple, but there are a couple things I want to show you just so you don't get maybe a little confused. So in order to access the reports, basically you're going to log into InfoPort just like you normally do. And you normally probably go click on the finance button because you want to go look at all the ledger roll-ups and all that good stuff. And what you're going to find is, coming soon, we're going to have a tab that says monthly reports there. It's right along that top set of tabs that you're normally used to seeing. It'll be on the very far right, and you can see in my little screenshot here, it's very close to being under the finance button over there on the right side of the screen. So it's pretty easy to find. You don't have to do too much digging for it. Now, once you get to the actual screen to find your reports, there's far less filters than you're probably used to when you go to like the ledger roll-ups or the transactions tab. It's pretty straightforward, and there's a couple different ways you can search here. First way you could do it is you'd go in and you'd put in your business unit. So if you have access to more than one business unit or something, you might have to pick UNCGA or UNCCH there. You would enter your department number. So you could either type the department there, just type right through the field, or you could use that drop down if you've got multiple departments you need to pick from and find the department for which you want to run the report. You'll need to go ahead and pick a fiscal year. You can actually only pick one, and you'll just click the drop down and pick the fiscal year that you're interested in. And then finally, you'll pick the accounting period. And as you know, the accounting period number corresponds to the month. So in my particular example, I used October as an example. So it's going to be accounting period 4. Sorry, I'm a little tripped up on my words. The last thing you're going to do is once you've set all your filters, you'll go ahead and click Get Reports. It really is that simple. Now another way you could do it, and this is a little faster to tell you the truth, but it kind of just depends on how you like to work, is I could actually go to the top of all those filters that I just showed you, and I could type in the things that I want to filter on directly in the search box. So what I did here is I'm still looking up the chemistry department in this particular example. So I typed in 318300, I typed in a space, I typed in 2017, and I typed in a space, and I typed in a 04. So it's the same things that I was filtering on before, but you might be able to type those in a little bit faster. But you're going to get to the same exact place. So once I type all that in, I'll click Get Reports, and yay, here's my reports. They actually show up to the right of where I was just actually typing in those search boxes. So you'll actually still see what your search criteria is, and on the right-hand side, you're going to see the reports that it found. Now, what's a couple of things to talk about on this page is you'll see right above the 4 reports that are listed there, it actually tells you what your search criteria was too. So you can double check, is this the one that I meant to actually grab? It's got the department number, the fiscal year, and the accounting period. And then it's going to list those reports that I just talked about. So you can see in this list, I've got my state detail with the program. I've got the state detail that's actually rolled up. I've got the state summary that's rolled up. And I've got the state summary with program, where the program's actually broken out. So you can review your reports. If those weren't the correct reports, you could go back and refine your criteria and just search for them again. But as long as you bring these up, they're ready to actually download. So what you're going to do to download them is you're just going to check a box. So I can decide, hey, I just want this PDF report, or I want an Excel report, or I want all the PDFs, or I want all the Excels. So in this example, I'm just choosing the PDF report, and I'm going to click Download Reports. Simple as that. If I wanted to get multiple reports, you can do that. I can, just like I was saying, I could go in and I could say, you know what, I want this one. I don't really want that state detail one, but I want this one. I want that state summary. And you know what, I want all the Excel. So I check the Excel box at the top of the column, and it actually will select all the Excel documents. And you can actually download all 8 of them if you wanted to. It's just whatever makes the most sense to you. Once I have made those selections, I will click Download Reports. Once I click that button, it's going to ask me if I want to open or if I want to save my file. So if you've ever downloaded anything in your life, which I'm sure you have, you often get presented with this box, so Windows knows what you want to do with whatever you're trying to download. Now in this particular example, you might see in the top of the box that it says reports, and it's got like a date, and it says .zip. So if you're not familiar with what a zipped folder is, or a compressed folder, you're actually going to get one of those if you try to download more than one file at a time, which is fine. You're all good. You'll just have to download that zip folder and save it to your hard drive somewhere, and then you're going to have to unzip that folder with the Windows tool in order to actually get all your individual files. If you're downloading them one at a time, it doesn't come in zip format. It just downloads whatever you want. So you might have to play around with it a little bit to sort of get the feel for it. But the system will guide you through what you actually need to do. It's not too hard, but just be aware of the whole zip issue. So once I have that folder, you can see I've got a little shot of like a couple files sitting in my sitting on my hard drive somewhere. And what I did was the little folder that you see with the zipper there in the corner, I just right-clicked on that folder. And one of the options that you'll actually have in that list is there's an option to extract all. So once you extract all, Windows is going to guide you through a process, and it's going to say, where do you want to save these? And what you'll end up with is another folder, and it's going to have all those individual PDFs and Excel files sitting there that I just showed you, and then you'd be able to double-click and open those up and use them however you want. So what I've got here is I opened up one of our reports, so you can kind of get a feel for how these reports are going to look. What this is I ran the state summary report for chemistry here, and on the very first page, you actually are going to have your grand totals for your revenue and your expenses. And then we're going to show you here in a minute. Once you start flipping the pages, it'll start showing your individual chart field strings. But in this particular example, I can see my grand totals, and I wanted to go over, in case you were maybe kind of wondering what these columns meant, what the definition of each column is. So, of course, you're going to have your description, so I can tell which line I'm looking at. Am I looking at revenue? Am I looking at expenses? And then year-to-date budget. That's pretty much defined as itself. It's the year-to-date budget. How much budget you have. Now in this column, it's kind of a combo column. It's got the pre-encumbrances and encumbrances kind of totaled all together. It's not separated out, so be aware of what that means right there. We've got the year-to-date revenue and expenses, or expenses, depending on sort of where you're looking in the system in that column. And then we, of course, have our available balance. Now, the available balance is going to be calculated by taking that first column, which is your year-to-date budget, and subtracting out the encumbrance column as well as the year-to-date revenue or expenses column, and that's going to give you your available balance. So nothing too different there at all. Now, in my particular example, I don't have any payroll projections, but what the system will do is it's going to take that available balance that I just showed you right there, and it's going to take any payroll projections that would be showing on the report, and then it's going to give you an adjusted available balance. Now, I went down kind of like a second row. Really, it's a continuation across the screen. The report was a little wider than I could fit into a slide, and I didn't want to shrink it down so you couldn't see it. So just kind of make the little jump down to that second row there. And then the last two columns, we have a month-to-date budget. That's going to be a total of all your budget journals and transfers for the month. And finally, a month-to-date revenue or expenses, total of revenue or expenses for the month. Yes, Nicole?
I just want to mention if anybody in chemistry is looking at this and says, but we, of course, have payroll projections. Why isn't there anything on this example? They weren't loaded when Chris needed to go ahead and get the screenshots and produce this presentation. But they are in there now. So, and when you do see the October report, you would see what the payroll projections were, basically the remaining sort of lowercase e encumbrances, because we know we don't really have personnel encumbrances, but you will see that on the report. So I can imagine somebody in chemistry right now going, that's not right.
Yes.
But that's why that's zero. It won't be zero when you see the actual report in the system. That's the screenshot.
Awesome. Thanks, Nicole. I wasn't trying to freak out my chemistry friends.
Yeah.
I tend to pick on chemistry.
They pay people. So,
yes. I tend to pick on chemistry in a lot of my examples because I just happen to always remember your department number. I don't know why, but 318-300 just always is in front of my mind. So like Nicole said, this will be a little different looking for you once you get access to the reports. Okay, so let's look at sort of what would happen if I was on that same report and I actually went to the first main page of values. So now you're going to see the familiar sort of format where the chart field strings are broken out, and you're going to have your subtotals and all the calculations are going to be the same as I just showed you on the first page. So there could be multiple pages in this report that you'll flip through, depending on how many chart field strings you have given for your particular department to look at. So another thing I wanted to point out is over there in the top corner, you can tell this is the state summary that's not rolled up because it actually is breaking out by program. So that's a really quick way of being able to see which report you're looking at. Besides the title of the report should tell you, but I can see that there's a program code there in the chart field string itself. Over here, of course, we're going to have our account numbers, and as they roll up to their values, it's going to have the subtotal there below each one of those groupings of your accounts. So right there. I'll talk a little through that one. So there's your subtotal. Now what this is I actually showed you the exact same report that I just showed you, but this is what happens when you download it into Excel. So if you haven't done this before, you know, it may look like at first like something went wrong. It's just mainly because someone would have to go in there and start messing with the columns and rows and get everything to look pretty, but it's all kind of collapsed into these smaller columns. But believe it or not, that actually is the same report that I just showed you on the PDF. So if you're in a hurry and you need something to look good right away, I'd go with the PDF. But if you want to do a little bit more, you know, with the data and you need to make some changes, obviously you can't do that to the PDF, and the Excel file is by far going to be your best option there. And like I said, you always have the option of downloading one or both of these formats, so you can kind of pick and choose how you want to do it. And if you decide 2 months from now that you wish you had done the Excel file, well, fine, download it, because it's going to be the same as it was the day it came out. So we want to keep telling you that you don't have to hurry up and get these necessarily, because once they're out there, they're going to be there, and you don't actually have to worry about, oh no, after 2 months it's going to change my values. So what we're looking at here is just a snapshot of one of the state detail reports. Still picking on my friend's chemistry there, but you got an idea of what we're showing here. Over in the corner, I've got my program code, so I can see that it's not actually rolled up by program. And then I can start looking at my actual transactions. So this should be, for you InfoPort folks, you vets who go into InfoPort and look at your transactions, a lot of this information should seem pretty familiar to you. I can actually see the account numbers. I can see the account descriptions. I've got like a description column, a trans type column, a trans ID column. If you're not familiar with all those values mean, I highly recommend that you go to our CC Info website and download the InfoPort reporting guide, because this is what we talk about in class, how to figure out like what all these values mean. There's a lot of fields that are concatenated together, which gives you like some kind of transaction number and the date, and you can kind of, if you know the format, you can figure out exactly where that transaction originated from and what it is. Sometimes if you just look at it just, you know, fresh out of the you know, a box here, it's kind of hard to tell exactly sometimes what something is. But we have a guide that actually will help detail that for you really well. Okay, and I've got, of course, a subtotal there at the bottom I want to show you. It's just like your you know, other reports that I was talking about. So now that you've seen these exciting reports, I know you can't wait to start using them. We want to know, you know, if you have access to the InfoPort, you're automatically, in theory, going to have access to these reports. But you know, things happen. You know, something goes wrong, and if you go in to look in InfoPort and you don't have these reports, all you need to do is contact your InfoPort administrator to submit a help request to get you access. Now these reports are not currently in InfoPort. They're not coming out until January. So if you look today and you don't see them, don't put a help ticket in. We just wanted to make sure that we talked about these reports before you took off for the holidays, and you know, you'd be ready to use them when you come in January.
We fully expect that Santa will deliver them while you're out of the office, so that when you show up on Monday night or whatever day we come back to work, they'll be sitting there waiting for you like a shiny box under the Christmas tree.
Yes, yes, and I know it'll be like the holidays are over, but you'll have almost another holiday when you come in. And
like the 14th day of Christmas.
Right, right. You get to use these new reports, and it's just like it's better probably than your holiday. You're like, I don't care about all the cars and jewelry I got. I want these reports. Right, right. So you can tell we're a little excited about telling you about these. So I hope this is something that that you can use. Another important note that I would say is these reports use Connect Carolina security, and not InfoPort's custom security. So you will be able to see departments that you normally don't see, like on the Transactions tab or the Ledger rollups. Just something to know. You might be able to access reports. So you're like, well, I didn't think I should be able to have access to these. The security is a little different, so don't be surprised. So you'll just want to put in your department number to make sure you get your correct report. So we have some resources. We're today going to be putting up a document on our CC Info website on our finance reporting guide. Excuse me. We'll also post these slides on CC Info a little bit later today, as soon as we can get them uploaded. And we'll actually also post this whole webinar on CC Info in a day or two. It usually takes us a day or two to get it ready for you to view. So if you're here next week, all that stuff will be there for you if you want to start looking at it. And as Nicole was saying, it's not even going to be out there until January anyway. But we wanted to give you a little early Christmas present and have everything ready to go before we took off for the holidays. So that is basically my my overview and demonstration of the new reports. So we've got plenty of time. We've got Nicole here, and if you have some questions, feel free to type them in that little chat window that you see at the bottom of the screen. And we also have Jackie Treschel here, and she is going to moderate those questions for you. And as she gets them in, she's going to read them out, and then Nicole and I will try to answer them.
Okay. The first question is from Chase. How does InfoPort calculate payroll encumbrances?
InfoPort does not calculate payroll encumbrances, so there is a custom projections tool, payroll projections tool that is used, and InfoPort displays the information from that projections tool on the Ledger Rollup tab. So you would have to click the button, show projections, and hit search to kind of toggle that feature on or off. We are using the same logic, the same tool that creates the payroll projections in InfoPort is the tool that's being used to provide the payroll projections in the report. So just kind of a nuance that it's not InfoPort. InfoPort just displays it. It is calculated based on the most recent payroll for an employee. So if I am paid on a state chart field stream as of the last biweekly payroll, it is, and let's say I'm paid $10 on that chart field stream, and there are 20 payrolls left in the year, then what the system says is, well, as best I know, you will continue to be paid $10 per pay period through the end of the year. And so it prorates that amount, and it says, all right, $10, 20 pay periods, $200. And so it projects that it'll spend $200 to pay me on that chart fill stream. That's how that works. Now, there is a document on CC Info that explains the payroll projections tool and exactly how that works. I encourage you to look for it. I know it was in InfoPort release notes. It was either 6.3 or 6.4. And I'm sorry, I created that, and I can't remember what version it was. It was a long time ago now. But if you go to CC Info and you look for the InfoPort release notes, it's either 6.3 or 6.4 that information is detailed, and it tells you how it works for SPA employees versus EPA employees. The logic is the same. It's just that SPA is going to change every biweekly, and EPA would change monthly.
Okay. The next question is from Rhonda H. Will these reports be available in the future for contracts and grants?
Yes. So the plan right now, we've developed the state reports first, and on the heels of this will come the trust and F&A reports, followed by the OSR reports. And the reason that we are producing the F&A and state reports next is frankly because the logic for those and the layout and everything is just very, very similar. There's very little change that has to happen to take us from state to F&A and trust. You guys know that OSR is life to date versus fiscal year to date. It means our logic has to change, and even just the layout of the report has to be different for OSR. So we're really going to capture the low-hanging fruit and bring you F&A and trust next. I don't have a firm time on that, but sometime in the first part of next year, hopefully the first quarter of next year. That's Nicole talking, not anybody else. That's not firm. And then OSR will come again on the heels of that.
Okay, the next question from Lexi just got answered, which is, will you eventually work on something similar for F&A and trust? The follow-up question from that, from RO, is when you do have the reports available for contracts and grants, any chance we could request reports on multiple project IDs at once rather than having to request each separately?
I honestly, yes, you can request anything. So I can say that. I don't know. We'll have to look at how, when the spec is, we have what we call these design specifications that we write for all of these reports, and that includes not just how the report is designed, but also information about how we feel like the user interface needs to function for folks. And certainly requesting more than one project at a time is a good idea. So I see Cheryl Garinger. I just called you Cheryl Garinger. I don't know why. I was talking about another one. Anyway, Cheryl Siegfried, who is a new member of the Commitment Control BA team, is writing that information down now so that we can make sure we give some good consideration to that and see if there's a way for us to do that when that specification is developed. But yeah, let me just say, if you do have like sort of specific things, you're like, this will work amazingly and will make my life the happiest it's ever been if you just do X. Let us know what X is, and that doesn't mean it'll happen. You might still have to be sad, but if we can do it, we want you to be happy. So let us know what those things are. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Nope, you're fine. That is all the questions we currently have.
So I have some things I want to talk about. So I'll fill in until somebody else pops up. I want to just make one note about the search field that Chris showed you, the box at the top that says search. I don't even know that Chris knows this because we were able to get it corrected since he's made the slides. But if you put only your department number in, it will return for you the most recent report available. So I love that. I think that's super handy. If I'm sitting in February, most likely I don't really care about October or anything else. I want to go ahead and look at what happened in January. So I'll just put my department number in and it will return for me the most recent report available. Let me tell you about what reports will be available, what accounting periods will be available. These reports will start with October. As you see in Chris's slides, we're going to be able to go provide reports from October and forward. So when you come back in January and you open up that big shiny box that St. Nick left for you, you'll see that there are October, November, and December reports available for you, state reports, okay? We will not be able to we can't go backwards because frankly the logic that we used to develop the snapshot for these reports didn't exist before, and that's why it existed in October because we had started working on it by then. So that's why we are able to give you October and forward. I want to make an important point about the totals and just sort of the information that you see in this report. The beauty of this report is that it is static, right? It's never going to change. I download this report on January 2nd when I come back to work, and then, I win the lottery and I move to Fiji, and somebody else comes in and takes my place, 6 months later, and they download the report. They are downloading the same report. They are getting the exact same data. That's beautiful. We've needed that. Now, if I try to compare the information on that report to InfoPort, I may or may not get the same balances. That's why we needed this report. You know that in InfoPort, your month-end balances can change because pre-encumbrances and encumbrances do not close. As they are relieved, in previous months, it affects the balance. So to tie these reports back to InfoPort is really, you can do it, but it's really just a pointless exercise. So they're not supposed to match. There's a reason we're giving people information as of the way it looked right at the end of the month. We'll be running these reports when the month closes. We will get notification from accounting services that they have closed the month, and at that very moment we will snapshot the data to start running these reports. But again, these are static, and the information in InfoPort is not, which is why we need these reports. That's all I had to talk about.
Okay. Chase piped in with FBM alternatives. I think that was on his list of requests that you asked for.
I think that this is an FBM alternative, Chase. This is the closest you're ever going to get to an FBM. It is a static report that comes to you in a PDF file.
All right. Terry 1 said, thank you so much for having title/header information on these reports.
You're welcome.
And Gene Stack has a question. I am currently balancing an account that the ledger roll-up summary shows total expenditures in research supplies of $10,106.54, yet the total transactions posted are $6,812.92. How is this possible, and how do I know what is not correct?
So my first comment is I hope you've entered a help ticket. So that's kind of the best thing. But just to sort of, let me read this question. I am currently balancing accounts. So when you say, hey Gene, when you say the total, just ping yes or no on this little thing. When you say the total transactions posted are you looking at that in the GL, like on the what is that? The GL transactions tab? Is that where you're getting that information that you're saying it's posted? I just want to make sure we're talking the same language.
And Nicole, while we're waiting for Jean to answer, she also followed up with, so are you saying that we should be balancing with Connect Carolina and not InfoPort?
So, Connect Carolina is our system of record, and InfoPort is a reporting tool. If you're going to reconcile your transactions at the end of the month, I would suggest that you use this new report. It's a static report. It's not going to change. You'll know exactly what you did and why you did it and why you made the decisions you made. But certainly you can continue to use InfoPort if you prefer that. I mean, there's nobody saying that you can't use InfoPort Transactions tab to download and reconcile your transactions, should you prefer that. So it's really sort of up to you. But they should match. InfoPort and Connect Carolina, there were some issues kind of in the early days where, sometimes you would see things in InfoPort that you didn't see in Connect Carolina, or I think it's normally Connect Carolina that you didn't see in InfoPort. But really, those things have been resolved, and to my knowledge, haven't existed for many, 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 many months. So what you see in one, you should see in the other. And if you don't, you should put in a help ticket.
And Jean's answer was total posting comes from transitions?
Transactions. Jean, I just don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. If you want to put in shoot me an email, I'll take a look at it and see if I can understand better your question if I have some screenshots.
And Jean said, I just want to make sure that I am seeing accurate financial info to report to my director/PI. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to see accurate information too. Nobody wants to report gobbledygook. That's not helpful. Yeah, but I need a visual. So if you wouldn't mind, you can shoot me some screenshots, and I'd be happy to look at it for you.
She said, okay, thanks.
Sure thing. It'll be my little Christmas gift to you. Don't anybody else send me email, though.
It looks like there are a couple of people typing. Okay, here's a question from CCT, but transactional detail is still found in InfoPort.
Yes. We're not changing anything in InfoPort. Where you see the main ledgers tabs, ledger roll-up, the transactions tab, none of that's changing. This is a brand new tab, monthly reports, with brand new static reports. We're not impacting the functionality of the other parts of InfoPort at all. This is sort of an add-on, which frankly isn't really an InfoPort report. It lives in InfoPort for you to see, because it's just an easy place to put it where everybody can have access.
don't see anyone typing.
Give you a couple more, another minute here. If we don't see anyone typing, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. But if you do have some questions, we still have plenty of time. So go ahead and submit those questions in. Last call for questions. You got Nicole right here. It's your lucky day. That's the question. We've got her chained into the room. She can't leave.
Can I sing Christmas carols?
You can do whatever you want at this point.
Happy holidays. That's the best I can do.
Jackie, is anyone else typing?
I don't see any more typing.
Okay. Well, we're gonna conclude that everyone understands what we're delivering here, and you know where to find the documents. Like I said, they're all going to be on CC Info. My suggestion would be here in the next day or so, when everything's all up there, you can just go to the search box at the very top of the screen, and I would just type in something like state reports or state monthly reports. You'll get a list of results, and you'll probably see our slides in there, and the reports. They usually kind of come up to the top of the list, whatever's been added last. So that makes it a lot easier for you if you get in on the sort of the front side of looking for these documents. But we'll need a little bit of time to get these slides and the webinar up there. So if you do have some coworkers that you think might be interested in this, you might want to let them know. Tell them how great this webinar was and how they need to go look at it. And it'll be available for you to actually use, starting in a day or two through when you come back in January, and you can always access those materials. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and I'll talk to you in January. Thank you.